side, Bo. Going to start competition. Boys AB 3 meters synchro. Eino en Vega. For execution, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5. For synchro, 7, 6, 7.5, 7.5, 6.5. Jonas en Rasmus. For execution, 6, 5.5, 6, 6.5. For synchro, 6.5, 7.5, 7, 7, 7. Aurelia en Kevin.
Okay.
For execution, 7.5, 6.5, 6, 6.5. For synchro, 7, 7, 7, 7, 6.5. Anton en Benjamin. For execution, 6.5, 7, 5.5, 6. For synchro, 6.5, 6.5, 7.5, 6.5, 6.5. Dan en Matthew. For execution, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7. For synchro, 7, 5.5, 8, 7, 7. Baris en Bertoek.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no.
For execution, 6, 6, 5 and a half, 6. For synchro, 6 and a half, 7, 7, 7, 7. Round 2, Eindhoven en Wijka. For execution, 7, 6, 5 and a half, 6. And for synchro, 7 and a half, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 7, 6 and a half. Jonas en Rasmus.
Ja.
For execution, 5 and a half, 4 and a half, 7, 6 and a half. For synchro, 6 and a half, 6, 5 and a half, 6 and a half, 6 and a half. Aurelia en Kevin. For execution, 7 and a half, 7, 7, 7 and a half. For synchro, 7 and a half, 8, 8, 7 and a half, 7 and a half. Anton en Benjamin. For execution, 7 and a half, 7, 6, 6. And for synchro, 7, 7, 7, 7 and a half, 6. Dan en Matthew. For execution, 7, 5 and a half, 6, 7. For synchro, 7, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 7, 6 and a half. Baris en Berto. For execution, 5 and a half, 6, 6, 6. For synchro, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 6, 6 and a half, 7. Round 3, Eino en Wijka. execution, 5.5, 6.5, 4, 5. For synchro, 6, 5.5, 5, 6, 6. Jonas Erasmus. For execution, 5.5, 4, 4.5, 5. For synchro, 5, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5. 1, 2, 3. Aurelia and Gavin.
Boys, come on!
For execution, 5, 4, 5.5, 5. For synchro, 5.5, 5, 5, 6, 4. Anton en Benjamin.
You ready to kick some ass?
For execution, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6.5. For synchro, 5, 5, 5, 5.5, 6. Dan en Matthew. For execution, 4.5, 5, 6.5, 6.5. For synchro, 5, 6, 5.5, 6.5, 6. Baris en Bertoel. Seven, 6.5, 5, 5. For execution. And for synchro, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5, 6. Round 4. Eino en Vijka. For execution, 7.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7.5. For synchro, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6.5. Jonas Erasmus. For execution, 6, 5, 4.5, 4.5. For synchro, 6, 5.5, 5, 6, 6. Aurelia en Kevin. For execution, 7-7-2-1. For synchro, 6-4.5, 4-5.5, 6. Anton en Benjamin. For execution, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5. For synchro, 5, 5.5, 5, 6, 6. Dan en Matthew. For execution, 6.5, 6, 4, 5.5. For synchro, 6, 6, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Baris en Berthoek. For execution, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 5.5. For synchro, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5, 7. Round 5. Eino en Vijka. For execution, 6, 5.5, 6.5, 6. For synchro, 6.5, 7, 7, 7, 6.5. Jonas en Rasmus. For execution, 6, 5, 6.5, 6.5. For synchro, 6, 7, 7, 6.5, 6.5. Aurelien en Kevin. For execution, 6.5, 6.5, 4.5, 5.5. For synchro, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7, 6.5. Anton en Benjamin. execution, 6, 4.5, 7, 6.5. For synchro, 5, 6.5, 5, 6.5, 6. Dan and Matthew. For execution, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7. For synchro, 5, 5, 5.5, 6, 5. Baris en Berthoek. For execution, 5, 4, 4.5, 4.5. For synchro, 5.5, 6, 5, 6.5, 6.5. This was the last dive in this competition. Thank you, judges. Thank you, secretaries. Next competition will start at 14:07. But first, we have a medal ceremony. So the girls AB Synchro 3-meter board and the boys AB Synchro 3-meter board, numbers 1, 2, and 3. Please come as soon as possible to the judges' room to prepare for our medal ceremony. For the boys, that's Aurélien Pétou.